Howdy, howdy, howdy. This is the second part of Finding Fraser on the ... In this case, it's Finding Fraser on the ground. So this comes about inspired really by Jerome. Wow. So really when we got into it, okay, I'll get into some details. So start off to the start. I actually wrote this in, I want to put this up here. I wrote this in order so that, and I'm going to try and follow that order. Okay. Starting, I am terrible with money. I think we talked about that before. I'm really not good with money. Never have been. Luckily, I have a job now where that offers me some stability, some kind of wiggle room when I'm dumb. As I'm dumb, it offers me some wiggle room. It's unfortunate because I should just learn how to be better with money. Oh yeah, it says I was not always making the same proportion of good decisions as I do now. That's a weird way of putting it. Totally is. But then I put some subpoints. That I broke relationships. You know, I lost money and I lost opportunities, financial, emotional relationships. And so I found myself in not a good spot. So in terms of like breaking up with someone who basically given, yeah, you take the apartment kind of thing, and I didn't really have a backup plan. So I gotta, as it was, this is a really tough year, as it were. It's just a tough year. So kind of couch surfed through the winter, like really leaned heavily on friends, not in the nicest way, obviously, all the time, and so didn't really make solid connections that way that could last long term. So found myself couch surfing through the winter, but in the summer had to kind of just like, whoops, I think I might lead a little bit too hard and didn't have any other options. So I ended up making a makeshift tent and living on in the park, the Mount Royal Park in Montreal, so up there on the mountain. It's a nice big park. There's lots of nice spots no one's going to walk by, as it were. So, again, inspired by Jerome, because we were talking about makeshift tents. It's like the best way to make a makeshift tent. It's like, and it was like, yeah, of course, you got to have this and that, and of course, you got to deal with some of this, the bugs and stuff, but you're always going to want to have, and they're like, I'm really... the prideful thing, like I always tell them, I'm proud of like this sort of, this makeshift thing that I got at the dollar store. Basically, you get a tarp to put underneath you that protects you against the moisture from the ground, and then you want to have a cover on top. Like you need to have some sort of, and they sell really cheap plastic sheets or shower curtains, some stuff you can find pretty free, but and then some mosquito netting, and they sell these sheets of mosquito netting or different costumes with mosquito netting. And you put that on, because otherwise bugs, crawly bugs, that's so bad. Anyway, so I felt a real connection there, and I was like, yeah, I know that, and I really should talk about that, because, it's understanding what the hole is, when you're in the hole, when you're on the ground. Like I said, on the ground, I'm like, what about underground? No, there are people that live under the ground. It's like more like a different thing. But when you hit the rock bottom is what I meant, on the ground. So... at that time, basically, there were outlets, but I refused. In this case, I being a prideful Albertan kind of conservative, still, if I was healthy and could work, I shouldn't, and didn't. In the end, I didn't ever go on welfare. I didn't collect EI as I could have, because again, being prideful in that way that I thought, wow, no. Like that was the job too, kind of bad decisions, in that I was in a job, it was seasonal, it was construction, it was working in décor cinema, so cinema, what do you call it? Holy guys, the English words are slipping out. So what's happening? Building sets, building movie sets is basically what I was in. Studios, it's a lot of cabinetry, it's simple, it's not real carpentry, but you use like simple construction system, blah blah blah. It's seasonal, so there's like 9 months and then you're off. And so there's that, and I also broke up with a girl whose father was the foreman and happened to be my boss. So yeah, I left myself in a bad position and refused to get welfare, whereas I could have, and I said sometimes maybe I should have, but in fact it did kind of, again, mold me in different ways, definitely affected my outlook and whatnot. And to get by, I started teaching private math courses, to kind of eat, as it were, had to do that. I also worked night shifts at the Palais de Congrès. You know, they do all sorts of shows and stuff, and you go there, and there's several different organizations you go, and it's like $20 an hour. You do 12-hour night shifts. You call them, and you're kind of on call. You just say, I'm on call, and then they'll call you if they usually have stuff almost every weekend. And a lot of weeks too. If you're interested, anyways, that's the thing. I would shower at the University of Montreal. Basically I survived. Like it wasn't so bad. I did eat by going around and picking up cans. The university is great, by the way. Fucking just like, there's like hundreds of dollars of cans there. And like, if you look like a student, you can get away with picking up. And just like, in the recycling bins and stuff, like there's a lot of cash in there, buddy. No, buddy, I'm not saying you should do that at all. This is just what I'm saying. I survived. But I never did go on to hard drugs, actually. It was something that because, I guess in a relationship when I was younger, it was coming out of high school, or coming to the end of high school, there was a guy who was a bit older, perhaps early 20s, and we were kind of, 17, 18, 19. And he's hanging around town, and he's kind of the cool guy. We're all partying, and he got slammed back 18 beers, no word of a lie. Like, he was just... So, he kind of led us into the drinking, which I didn't, I probably got alcohol poisoning like a dozen times in my life, and just always regretted it, like, why am I doing this to myself? So now, that's going to come up in the drugs one. Anyways, whatever. Let's do a little bit of drugs now. There's a drugs one coming up too. But this kind of is when I was on the ground and why I wasn't taking drugs. So I'll bring that up now as well. It's relevant. In that, so we had, there was party. He was obviously Mr. Party, right? And so I left that. I went to Calgary and lived with my brother, and it was a very calming influence, just in terms of that. But it wasn't my lifestyle. I didn't really take to the drinking lifestyle. Like, I did drink and kind of regret it. It gives me even a headache thinking about those disgusting draft beers. Getting off the topic, so after I left, he got into cocaine, and always kind of a rowdy sort of guy in terms of, we have bar fights, we have fights in the parking lot. That's just a normal thing out there. That's not something to be approved of, but it's just sort of, that's not out of normal. So he would get in fights from time to time. Not what I'm talking about. Well, it is, but now cocaine comes into the picture, and apparently one night, this is how it comes out in the court documents. So he and some friends were out drinking and, probably doing some cocaine, and I think that's factual. Well, I got it secondhand, but I'm pretty sure I knew he was into cocaine, and I'm pretty sure that was involved in this. After what you hear, you'll probably agree. We got to take a little drink. So they get in a fight in a bar, and guy, it was just one guy, and I guess a few of them, like 3 or 4, go to the parking lot, get in a fight. Obviously, it's one-sided. So the guy gets shit kicked out of him, like to the point of being unconscious. They thought he was dead. They already beat him to that point, and then they realized that they'd done something wrong. So they dragged him and drove over him with a car. Apparently, he wasn't dead yet. Drove over him with a car to make it look like an accident and sped off. They got caught, and he spent time for manslaughter in prison with the other guys. So that scared the fucking bejesus out of me. And I never, ever, ever wanted to go down that path. So while I smoked, I gotta do the other thing and the other thing. So that's understanding the whole, but also saying when I was in the hole, I didn't, just no judgment to those who do. I'm just saying it's a different path. It was only to highlight that while it's, as I really tried to get across to Steve, totally valid and important perspective to come from someone who's come from psychedelic drugs, who's come through an injury that leaves him in pain. It's come through several near-death experiences. You saw his nose, it's like sideways. He got it broken bad, man. So that perspective, though, is important, whereas it's not mine. And I feel some kinship with all of you in just terms of, like, again, I was right at, no, I was at the ground, so I think that where I was at, I would have been looking up at you guys at that time. I really feel that was the case. So I'm going to sign off, but there's another one on drugs, and I'm probably going to they're a little bit mixed up now, but they both relate. They do both relate. That one was just how what. The only, I already said it. Okay, see you soon.